Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. My name is James Feeney. As the title of this video may show, or will probably show, we're going to be talking about song associations in terms of tarot or the major arcana. Sorry, it's a little bit windy. I decided to film this video outside today. It's a really beautiful day, end of summer, early fall, definitely a little bit of a chill in the air, so I will hopefully this doesn't interfere too much with the sound or any of that or lighting quality. Brought a little coffee, decided to go for a nice walk, and figured why not film this video now. So ever since I started learning tarot, I've always sort of associated songs with different cards. When I hear a song, one of the first things I usually end up doing is thinking about how it pertains to tarot or what card I would associate it with. So this is kind of something I've had going on personally, like making a playlist in terms of tarot for a long time, but I decided to sort of get more organized and share it just because I hadn't seen anything really like this video-wise, and I thought it could be something that others might like to see or make their own version of, something like that. So I figured why not. So I have my notes here. I've decided to break this video into parts just for the sake of time because there are 78 cards and that would take a really long time if I were to like explain the examples and for the purposes of like quotes and things. So yeah, we're gonna do the major arcana in this video. Oh my god, this wind is so annoying. We're going to do the major arcana in this video, and I'm thinking that I'm going to break it into 3 parts and do 2 of the suits in the second part, followed by the last 2 suits in part 3. So we'll see how that goes. It'll probably end up being a semi-long video anyway. I've brought cards along for examples, although a lot of these references aren't going to like pertain to any of the symbology of the card. I figure it's just nice to have sort of a tangible look at the card as we go, and also if you're kind of just trying to skip along and pick and choose cards, I'm not going to put timestamps or anything, but just fast forward, I guess, to when you see me holding up the card, if that works for you. So we will dive right in. I picked a quote for all of the songs that I felt was kind of like the most pertinent to the card itself. Of course, these are all my opinions, and your kind of idea of the card or what you like to think of the archetype or energy might be entirely different. Likewise, a lot of these songs, some of them are from artists and songs that I listen to quite often, and others are either from childhood or just things I hear in passing, so they might be a little bit corny, but they are nonetheless songs and lyrics or like beats that remind me of the card itself. So I'll be sure to like give a little bit of background there. So first we have the Fool. So for the Fool, I've chosen the song Uncharted by Sara Bareilles. Bareilles, I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce it. It's very much about sort of like a journey, jumping blindly. It's very much how I picture and associate the Fool card, and how I read the Fool card at its core. Sort of that like childlike, naive sort of hopeful, adventurous spirit. So the quote that I've chosen from that song would be, "I'm going down, follow if you want. I won't just hang around, like you'll show me where to go. I'm already out, a foolproof idea, so don't ask me how to get started, it's all uncharted." So just taking that leap, having no idea where something will lead, but deciding to go and do it anyway. Sort of the first blind step being, in its own way, a plan that unfolds as the journey comes along. So, Uncharted by Sara Bareilles for the Fool. Next we have the Magician. And for the Magician, I've chosen I think this is the one song out of all of them that's not going to have lyrics, so there isn't a quote for this, so I'm sorry for that. I'll try my best to sort of explain why I chose the song. Also, I would play parts of these songs for you guys, but I don't really feel like getting a copyright strike from YouTube, so I hope you guys understand. I'll put the names and artists in the description, if not in the video itself, so that you guys can look them up on YouTube or Apple Music, Spotify, whatever streaming service you might have. So for the Magician, I've chosen Elements by Lindsey. So it's kind of like, the primary sound going on is electronic and violin, or violin that's been enhanced with sort of beats and rhythms that are synthetically created. Why I chose that is just for the fact that it kind of felt like the essence of the song, the beat, the building of the instrumental, and the fact that somebody had to sit and like synthesize all of these noises as opposed to naturally finding them, just felt very magician-like. That sort of creator, the one who knows themselves, who can take parts from other things and sort of make it come into being, who will pick and choose, and who has all these things at their disposal and is very much aware of that and able to make something of it. So for that reason, I've chosen Elements by Lindsey from The Magician. I know a lot of these songs are all over the place as far as genre and taste, so yeah, might not be everybody's taste. Honestly, it's not a song that I listen to super regularly, but I do enjoy it, and I feel like it fits the Magician energy decently well. So next we have the High Priestess. So for the High Priestess, I've chosen Prisons to Purify by Sundara. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher this. By Sundara Karma. It's a song that kind of feels very deep and melodic, and there's sort of like this beat that you almost get lost in. You almost don't want to focus on the lyrics just because of how strong and almost like encompassing the rhythm is. So there are lyrics in it though. So I've chosen a quote. I found myself a one that can't be two. We've sunk into a deeper blue. I've come back down, so cut me loose. So we know as far as like numerology goes, the High Priestess is associated with the number 2. So I found myself a one that can't be two. Sort of that idea of like two parts that actually make up a whole is something that I really much associate with the High Priestess. There's sort of like the unconscious, intuitive self that's really elusive, and the more conscious mind. And in my opinion, when the High Priestess energy is really fully embodied and actualized, those two, the line blurs, and you're able to sort of dip in and out of both. So I found myself a one that can't be two. We've sunk into a deeper blue. I know a lot of us associate the color blue with intuition, the High Priestess, third eye. So that, again, is another reference that I thought was pretty applicable. And then I've come down, so cut me loose. Just going down, the whole idea of like descending into like a deeper depth, something that's more like watery or below the surface, and wild and untamed, being cut loose and descending is also a big part of the way that I view and read the High Priestess. So, and I'm sorry, I am outside, so people will be talking, and I hope that doesn't interfere too much. But yeah, so for the High Priestess, we have Prisons to Purify by Sundara Karma, and that's a really good song, by the way. I definitely recommend looking that one up. They're a great group. So for third, we have the Empress, and for her, sorry, turning over the page of my notes, we have Froot by Marina and the Diamonds. And this song is kind of just all about life being lush, abundance. There's like a femininity, sort of like this fertile divine feminine feeling to the song. It's very much about almost like embodying the lusciousness of like what Mother Nature has to offer in human form, as told by obviously a woman who almost feels as though she is these things, and that is it's almost like a narrative type story in a way. It's very cyclical, um, very nature rooted and based. Um, the beat is nice. It's almost like a very sensual type song, which I also find that to me is something that's sort of like inextricable where the Empress is concerned. So the quote I've chosen is, "It's summertime and I hang on a vine. They're gonna make me into sweet red wine, hanging around like a fruit on a tree, waiting to be picked. Come on, cut me free." So sort of that wild, untamed, almost like like prosperity coming from the self, or being your own sort of like fruitful bounty and making being the one to bring that into the world or providing that for others. Um, so I mean, that song is loaded with a bunch of references that I think I could connect to the Empress, but that was just one of many. So check that one out, and you will find a bunch more quotes that you might connect to the Empress. Fourth up, we have the Emperor. So for Mr. Emperor here, we have a song with a title that automatically, I mean, you might think connects to the energy. We have Emperor's New Clothes by Panic at the Disco. Yes, Panic at the Disco is a group I really love. So there might be another song in here by them. I could be wrong. So the quote I've chosen is, "I'm taking back the crown. I'm dressed all up and naked. I see what's mine and take it." So, I mean, the Emperor is very much associated with that sort of like divine masculine, the counterpart to the divine feminine of the Empress commonly. So this was actually a card that I had a lot of difficulty with in the beginning, just sort of disliking sort of the power, the discipline, the dominance, and energy that it sort of conveyed. And at first I had a tough time sort of connecting with this card, but that's changed over time, and I feel a deeper connection with the Emperor now. So I kind of just like this almost like raw aspect that the song brings to the table. Like I'm all dressed up and naked, as in I take that as being sort of like I am as I am. And taking back the crown, sort of just like the willingness to sort of go out on a limb, to rise to the occasion, to take action, seeing something that's yours and taking it. That's very much to me Emperor energy, you know, not being willing, not not willing to sort of be pushed around, to strive for what you believe is yours, or to make what you want to be yours, your own, I should say. Although what I will say is that this song is sort of more wild side of the Emperor, whereas there's definitely a side that I think is so disciplined and refined and sort of subdued to the Emperor that this song doesn't quite touch on. But I do like the way that the song speaks to, I guess, what in my opinion would be the more wild, untamed aspect to the Emperor. So yeah, great song for that one. And then we have the Hierophant, another card that I've had a lot of trouble connecting to, and I've recently kind of sort of reconciled my differences with him. So I tend to like decks that picture the Hierophant less as being sort of like a pope or religious figurehead, and more so as sort of like a teacher and a leader and someone who provides guidance. So for this song, I've picked "Flowers in Your Hair" by the Lumineers. It definitely has a sound and beat and lyrics that are much that are kind and soft, and that I wouldn't have associated with the Hierophant maybe even a few months ago. But now I kind of can very much see that there's a depth there, and that it isn't really something to be um, feared or how do I want to put it? Basically, I used to like view the Hierophant as sort of this like confining, restrictive, authoritarian figure. All things I really don't like. But I'm very much more of the mind that there's sort of this power in conventional wisdom, the power that sort of comes with time and training and knowledge that's been kind of proven and practiced. So the lyric I've chosen is so then we grew a little and we knew a lot, and now we demonstrated it to the cops, and all the things we said, we were self-assured. Because it's a long road to wisdom, but it's a short one to being ignored. And I really like the line, especially where wisdom is concerned. I would say that the Hierophant is very much a card that, and an energy that plays out over a long span of time. It's about taking that time to acquire wisdom and to practice certain techniques and tenets over time. And this song is very lighthearted, and I really enjoyed that aspect, kind of like the childish, innocent aspect to the Hierophant, or what I would see as like the start of the journey where the Hierophant is concerned. So, Hierophant. Next we have the Lovers. And for the Lovers, we have another song with a title that clearly is going to connect to the card. The Lovers is If This Is Love by Ruth B. And the quote I chose is, "If this is love, why does it break me down? Why do you break me down?" So I chose this song specifically. I mean, the entire song is about love, much more so in the romantic sense with another person, which is actually not always and often how I will read this card. But the whole idea of love being something that breaks you down, breaks you apart, brings you to your knees in a way, I think is important where the Lovers are concerned, just because it is, to me, a choice and a union, something that you give or you relinquish a part of yourself in exchange for something else. So, to me, a big aspect of the Lovers is this sort of reciprocity and giving to something in order to receive, and the fact that there isn't really an ownership, but sort of a bond or a relationship that's recognized on both parts, whether that be within yourself. There's always, I don't want to phrase it in a price to pay because that sounds almost technical, but in order to sort of reach a point of like union or commonality, common ground, reconciliation, compromise needs to be made on behalf of, I guess, two sides or two parties. So this song really touches upon that aspect of the Lovers in a way that I think fits. So that's Lovers. Sorry, just getting the notes all situated. The wind is blowing things around. So next we have the Chariot. And for the Chariot, this is a song that I'm sure many people have heard. How Far We've Come by Matchbox 20. So the part of the chorus, I'm sure if you've heard this song, and I know that a lot of people know what the song is. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how far we'll go. And the song talks about sort of this idea of like, fuck it, whatever the circumstances may be, the end of the world, etc. But we're going to continue. Sort of that idea of like, despite the odds, despite the obstacles, we continue because it's what we want to do, or because it's what we're meant to do. And for me, the Chariot definitely is a lot about perseverance over obstacles and hardship, or in spite of something. That's part of what makes it a journey, as opposed to just, I don't know, the yellow brick road, so to speak. So yeah, that song for me really reigns true to my idea of what the Chariot embodies. So next we have Strength. And for Strength, I've chosen, oh well, it's a long video no matter what, so I'm glad I'm making this many parts. Sorry, guys. So for Strength, we have Next to Me by Imagine Dragons. Now this is one that I feel you need to hear to sort of understand how it connects, and this is one that I think the lyrics don't quite necessarily touch upon what strength would be in a very outright way, but the quote I've chosen is, "There's something about the way you always see the pretty view, overlook the bloodied mess, always looking effortless." So it's mostly about a guy talking about his love interest, some girl, and how great she is and how amazing she is for almost like being willing to be with him despite all of these things that he views himself as. So for me, there's like this element of strength that he's sort of putting her on this pedestal, um, and being willing to be like self-deprecating and reflective. So yeah, for me, that's strength. Then we get, I'll try to pick up the pace a little bit. We get the Hermit for number 9, and for the Hermit, I have I'll Still Have Me by CYN, and the quote I've chosen is if I don't have you, at least I'll still have me. So this is very much a song about sort of loss that that leaves somebody alone or to be on their own path, and sort of the acknowledgement that no matter what, things will be alright because this person still has themselves, and that's really what's important, is that you have yourself in the end, and that's who you will have in the end, no matter what. And to me, that's very much what the Hermit embodies. Maybe not exile or solitude, but just comfort within the self and the home that you can find within yourself, no matter the conditions or sort of circumstances where anybody else is concerned. So it's the Hermit. Wheel of Fortune. And for the Wheel of Fortune, we have Movement by Hozier. This whole album I honestly could have probably used for the cards, because just lyrically it's really awesome. But I chose Movement for the Wheel of Fortune, and the quote I picked was, "Oh, move me, baby." Blah, 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 blah. I can't speak today. "Oh, move me, baby. Move like the gray skies, move like the bird of paradise, move like the odd sight come out at night." And I really view the Wheel of Fortune as change, but a very much like natural sort of change, something that sort of is cosmic and can't be avoided, that's inevitable. So just the whole idea of like viewing, being moved by the skies, or in the way that, say, like a bird would, or an odd sight come out at night, it says, like things like that, things that are sort of outside of our jurisdiction or control, and sort of more natural elemental type forces within our lives that sort of incite these changes and dictate external forces and factors. So for me, that hits on the Wheel of Fortune perfectly. And then we get Justice for number 11, and I chose, sorry, car going by, I chose Shark in the Water by V.V. Brown, and the quote I picked was, "Right is right, rules are rules, this is more like April Fools." So for me, the entirety of the song is mostly like, almost like calling a spade, maybe calling somebody out on something, or acknowledgement of what actually is, and for better or worse. So to me, Justice is a lot more karmic and harder to pin down, say, than just rules and how we generally like to view, I guess, like the legal system as being so black and white. To me, justice is a lot more universal and dealing in shades of gray about cause and effect and reaction. So the song is really more so connected to that energy of justice. So if that's not how you view it, it might not work for you, but for me, it does. Then we get the Hangman for number 12, and I think I have 2 songs for this one. Blown away. So I guess I'll touch on both. I think I just didn't really end up liking the song that I'd picked a way long time ago, and down the line I'd ended up picking a different song for this card. So I started off with Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer with the quote, "It's not that we don't care, we just know that the fight ain't fair, so we keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change." Also a popular song, so you guys probably might know that one. But in a way, I do still feel like that song is applicable, but I guess my view is, in a way, it's changed. I guess my qualm there would be that it's very much like a conscious removal from a circumstance, as opposed to something that's more forced, or the inability to sort of interact or move. And Waiting on the World to Change is much more of that choice. And for me, the Hangman is a lot of times something that isn't an option, or to be in that circumstance is not an option. So then what I chose ultimately, or after that, was Smile by Mikky Ekko, with the quote, "So smile, the worst is yet to come. We'll be lucky if we ever see the sun. Got nowhere to go. We could be here for a while. But the future is forgiven, so smile." So that surrender to circumstances and events that may unfold, and the knowledge that you don't really have control or say, but that you will be within this sort of greater path or flow. Also, of course, there's like, if we ever see the sun, and to me, the sun is a very big aspect in the traditional Hangman. You see the halo here, but for me, I don't know, I've always sort of personally thought of it almost as like the sun rising or dawning on a new day, and that almost being like a time period of the Hangman is like dawn, enlightenment. So the song to me fits perfectly. It's a really awesome song too. So a lot of the song I think embodies the Hangman energy. So check that one out if you are interested. Moving along. So we have Death, Death 13. Yeah. So for Death, this one is a corny childhood song that I just had to include. If only for the title, but just the idea of it. If you are anywhere around my age range, you will likely know this song from Disney Channel, Metamorphosis by Hilary, Duff. And also, if you read tarot, the word metamorphosis is probably something that a lot of us connect to the death card. So the lyric I've chosen, and the whole song could honestly be chosen, every lyric, but I've been so wrapped up in my warm cocoon, but something's happening, things are changing soon. So the whole song is basically about change, renewal, a new cycle, leaving things behind, natural endings. That one's pretty self-explanatory, so yeah, Metamorphosis for Death. Temperance. Temperance is another card I had a lot of trouble fully understanding in the past. It took me a while to sort of reach a point where I felt like I had a grip on it. So, wait, wrong notes. The wrong page of notes, I should say. Where'd it go? Here it is. Oh, there. So for this, I almost view Temperance as like a mix of fire and water. It is connected to Sagittarius, my sign, fun fact. But before I really got into sort of the astrological associations, in my head it was always much more about water. So I almost view it as like a mix, or like where water and fire sort of can commune and mix freely and in a way that's balanced. So the song I picked for this was In Like a Lion, Always Winter by Relient K. And the quote I picked is, "This dying world you brought back to life, and deep inside I felt things shifting, everything was melting. Away, oh away, and you gave us the most beautiful days." The song is very much about the shift of winter to summer, of death into life, or cold into warm. And for me, Temperance is very much that balance and the natural order of things, sort of finding that equilibrium that for the most part is natural and not really forced or artificial. So for me, that song helped me to get a handle on Temperance and what it meant to me. So that works. And then we've got the Devil. And for Mr. Devil, we have, what did I pick for him? For the Devil, we have Gemini Feed by Banks. The whole song sort of sums up my views on the Devil as being sort of like, to me, it's a lot more about the self, restriction, potentially like relations with others. The song sort of goes into this like toxic or abusive relationship where there's restriction and confinement and things like that. So the quote I chose is, "And to think you would get me to the altar, like I follow you around like a dog that needs water, but admit it that you wanted me smaller." So somebody just keeping her small, confined, things like that. So to me, that sort of touches upon a big facet of the Devil's energy. And of course, the song is about her almost like breaking free from that and coming into her personal power, which is a nice little story arc. Then we get the Tower. And for the Tower, we have another classic little childhood anthem. We have Skyscraper by Demi Lovato. The whole song is pretty much a metaphor for the Tower in a traditional sense. So a lot of you might be able to identify with that one. The quote I chose is, "Go on and try to tear me down. I'll be rising from the ground like a skyscraper, like a skyscraper." So yeah, the whole idea of like the ego or the collapse, and then the rebuilding from the foundations, better, renewed, having had those experiences or epiphanies and realizations, sort of that hubris having been washed away, is perfect for that song in this card. So that's the Tower. Let me get the Star. And for the Star, we have Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, a classic. So I think that's one that a lot of people might know. I chose the quote, "Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's all right." So as opposed to picking that for the actual sun card, I felt so much more that it fit with the Star for me. Just about things being all right, like the coming of a new day, a new dawn. For me, the Star is about that healing, that renewal, hope, and to me, that song, like for my entire life, has sort of symbolized hope and new beginnings and healing. So for the Star, we have Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Then we have the Moon, and this one sort of was a complicated one for me as well, just because the Moon is, I don't know, it's a complicated card. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that it's more complicated than some of the other cards in the Major Arcana, but for me, it is quite complex, so this one took me a while. But I ultimately went with, and this might be just a cover, because I think the song might be older, so I'm not sure if Florence and the Machine, if this is an original or if it's a cover, but What the Water Gave Me, specifically the version by Florence and the Machine, and if it is by Miss Florence Welch herself, then it is, and if it's by somebody else, then yeah. But I chose that version. The quote I chose is, "The world's a beast of a burden. You've been holding on a long time, and all this longing." Is that right? The world's a beast of a burden. You've been holding on a long time, and all this longing. Yes. So that longing, sort of like the burden, the holding on. There's like a sense, for me, the Moon has a lot to do with longing, sort of like maybe not in the most literal sense, but that sort of hidden, shadowed self or aspect to a situation, something that we sort of know deep down that we aren't consciously acknowledging, or that's just sort of like under our nose, and we just kind of need to have a little light shed on it. So also water, kind of viewing water in like a mystical way. It's very much for me associated with like water and nighttime and this melodic sort of tune, which the song really encapsulates. So that's what I chose for the moon. We're getting there, guys. Next we have the sun. For the sun, I picked Orange Trees by Marina. So I think we had another Marina and the Diamonds song. Well, that was Marina and the Diamonds. This is technically Marina because it's her new album where she only goes by the name Marina now. But for that, I picked Orange Trees. And this is also one of those songs where you really have to hear it to understand why it might connect. I think the sound and the beat and the rhythm and the melody, all of that really plays into what made me choose this song. But as far as the lyric I chose, it is, I take a breath of air, I feel free. Spent so long, was busy chasing happiness when all I needed was a little peace. So the whole entire song is about being happy, finding happiness, reaching that point, and sort of course, she's saying she was searching for happiness, but what does that really mean? And for her, happiness was peace, and that's ultimately when she found it, is when she realized and she got that peace, and she realized that that's what made her happy. Sort of better times, summer, just everything about the song is just, it's so sun card for me. So I recommend checking that one out to see if maybe you feel the same way, and let me know if you do. And we come along to Judgment. And this one is one that I always knew what I wanted for this card, and it's Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. Now, I definitely don't view the Judgment card as like religiously exclusive or even spiritually exclusive, but it is something that I sort of associate with that higher calling purpose, whether you are atheist or not, and it's just like the best and highest version of yourself, or you are religious and it's like a calling there, or maybe you're just spiritual and you it can be an ambiguous sort of analogous like idea for you. But I've always felt like Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley is not a super religious song personally, or at least the way that I feel and think about it. It's also a classic, so you guys probably may know this one. The quote I picked is, and it's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. So, yeah, it's not about that person who claims to have reached that highest point or seen the light. It's not any of that that gets you to those higher places. He says it's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. So, it's not all sunshine and rainbows to get to that elevated stance. You kind of really do have to have this like breakthrough or a breakdown that sort of like triggers this elevation, or that can get you to that spot. There is like a suffering sort of that needs to be felt or incurred before you're truly able to reach that highest point, whether or not it's on that path or something that you've had in the past. So for me, that just is perfect for Judgment. Finally, at the very end, we have the World, and for the World, we have another. Now, this is going to sound corny, potentially, to some of us, but it works for me. It does. So we have Waka Waka by Shakira. So the song that I believe it was for the World Cup a few years ago. And I mean, the World Cup, she wrote it all about coming together, sort of rising, being a part of something greater, success, achievement, happiness, bigger picture. So for me, it fits perfectly, and it's really like, it feels like almost like song of a culmination of events in the best way possible. So the quote I picked was, today's your day, feel it, you've paved the way, believe it. So yeah, believe in yourself. Like you put in the groundwork and you're here now. You've reached that point and it's just the beginning. So for me, that is a very perfect fit of a song where the world is concerned. So that finishes it up finally. I'm sorry it took so long, guys, but yeah, it's going to be multiple parts. So if this was something you enjoyed and you're looking forward to the next parts, let me know. Let let me know your thoughts on the songs I picked, or if you have your own ideas for songs where the cards are concerned, maybe with your own personal associations. I'd also like to see maybe if you guys make videos that are, if anybody makes a video uh, where they are associating songs to the cards, drop a link in the comments, because I'd really like to see what you guys pick for certain cards. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me on this journey, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Just let me know any thoughts you have, or maybe what you're looking or hoping to see from me in the future as far as content goes. And until next time, or the next part, yeah, bye guys.